brings in branches of the Snyder, Snore, Widener, Malinowski clan. And during the taping of this, you'll probably hear me say, or someone say, myself or I, and that's me, Bernie Malinowski Jr. Now this chart I'm showing shows that the Snyders started way back in 1862 with the marriage of Michael Snore and Francisca Koenig. And out of that marriage was twins, Joanna and Pauline Snore, and also August Snore, and of course Carolina Snore, which became our grandmother. And she married Friedrich Widener, and later on, after my mother was born, or Augustine, at the same time there was two other children, Paul and Teresa, and they both died. But the remaining one was Grandma Malinowski, later on, and she came across with her mother, Carolina, and at Ellis Island met Herman Snyder, and they got married. I don't think there's any divorce involved, but as a result of that marriage, there were children there. Herman Jr., who was born on 8/13/1902, Clarence, who died at an early age, Uncle George, who was born on November 20th, 1905, and Aunt Martha, June 16th, 1908. Of Ammerbach in Bavaria, Germany, just southeast of Frankfurt. The picture that follows are relatives and friends of this branch of the family. Start of the Snore family history. And this is a picture of Johanna Snore, one of the twins, sisters of Caroline. This is August Snore, not very clear, but he's Caroline's brother who lived on King Street in East Lovejoy. This is Joseph and Johanna Schachner, sister of Carolina and husband. And this is a Schachner family group, Joseph and Johanna in front. I don't know who the rest are. And here's Reinhold Schachner. He's the son of Joseph and Johanna. And here we have Pauline and Fred Wildner, Carolina's sister and husband. And now we're up to the Snyders and Wideners. This is Herman Snyder, our grandpa, Carolina's husband. Here's the Snyder family and a group of friends. Best I can do on this is the second row right is Grandma with Martha on her lap, and sitting in front is Uncle Herman and Uncle George in front of her. I don't know if anybody else knows, but that's the old family. And here's my mother, Augusta Widener Snyder, 1910, her confirmation photo when she was 12 years old. This is Lena Schachner and Martha Snyder with young Betty and Adolf Schachner in the front. And these are friends of Grandpa and Grandma of the Pfeiffer family. And here's Grandpa and Grandma in the backyard, I believe at 195 Longnecker, with Donnie Malersky and Martha's boy. And this again is the same picture with the individual picture of Grandma Snyder. This chart is a little larger than the Snyder chart.
because of the research work of Uncle Eddie. And here we are, starting at the top, is great-grandpa John Malinowski, who married Catherine in 1820 in Germany. And then next is Grandpa Malinowski, John Peter, who was born in Gdansk, Poland in 1864. His parents settled on Detroit Street in Buffalo, New York. He built a home at 61 Dempster Street in East Lovejoy in 1883. John Peter married Veronica Caroline Brodnicki on October 30th, 1888 at St. Stanislaus Roman Catholic Church on Broadway. 11 children were born at the 61 Dempster Street address. And they were Anna, John, Frank, Harry, Bernard Sr., my father, Uncle Valentine, my godfather, Catherine, Francis, Helen, Joseph, and Edward. As of this date, April 1984, only one remaining is Aunt Olga, widow of Uncle Val. This is the wedding photo of Grandma Veronica Brodnicki and Grandpa John Peter Malinowski. And let's see, that was in 1888. This is a group photo of some of the 11 Malinowski children. Left to right is Aunt Frances, Catherine, and Uncle Val at the top, Joe, then Grandma, Edward, and Helen. This is Aunt Frances. She lived at 61 Dempster, never married. She worked in a movie film processing house downtown when I was over there during high school. Dad graduated from school 43 on Lovejoy Street in 1912. That's Bernard Sr. Thank you. Dad was working on the Lehigh Railroad at the time he met Mom. He is pictured here in front of the Lehigh Valley Station. This is a group at 61 Dempster, the Malinowski clan. You'll find Aunt Annie and Grandma Malinowski, Aunt Olga and Uncle Val, Uncle Frank and Uncle John, and I'm not sure about the rest of them. On April 25th, 1916, Bernard Malinowski Sr. and Augustus Widener, or Snyder, got married, and this is the picture of the bride. Here's a portrait of their wedding party. Matilda, or Tilly Roll, was the bridesmaid, and Uncle Frank, the best man. In front is Augusta and Bernard Sr., later to be referred to as Barney instead of Sr., not to be confused with myself as Junior. Firstborn myself, Bernard Jr., born October 4th, 1917, with airplane. At the time, we lived on the third floor of a building across the street from School 43. Here's another picture of myself at 61 Dempster Street, climbing over a fence. On the left is a picture of my mother, taken quite a few years ago. And on the right is my father with myself and Bob, my brother Bob. This is Bob and myself. About this time we lived in a house on Ideal Street. In fact, the house was behind, there's a second house on the same lot. And here's Bob and myself at the house. And here's Bob, Ruth, and myself. Photo of Sister Ruth, one with a rocking chair and the other with a little heavy coat on. And here we have Bob, Bernie, and Ruth in a little group picture. Dad, or Barney, was a big fisherman and most every Saturday went fishing. Here he is at Ellicott Creek fishing with Bob, Ruth, and myself. W.H. Porterfield, famous photographer, took a picture of Dad, Bob, and myself on shore fishing. It appeared in the Courier Express rotogravure in a Sunday feature section. Ruth was 5 years old at this point, August 5th, 1925. This is probably the only picture I have of Grandma Malinowski with my mother and myself, so take a good look. Here's Dad with Albert, who was born at Grandma Snyder's at the end of Lovejoy Street, Sloan, New York, June 28, 1926. Here's a picture of Mom and Eleanor, who was born March 9, 1927. There's another of Mom and Eleanor. And this is Mom and Eleanor aboard the Edgewater Beach excursion boat, an annual outing of the German Harigari Temple. And then, all right, this little Bernie at confirmation time. Here's a group of baller boys at St. Agnes, including myself, which Grandma did a lot of ironing and surpluses and that all through the period. This is the backyard at 195 Longnecker before Dad built the garage, and the church alongside of it, the hall, and a few other things. This is a Malinowski gathering on Dempster Street. And left to right is Aunt Catherine, Casper, and Annie. Mom and Eleanor is there, Harry Jr. and Sylvia. Most of them are from Detroit, but I can't really identify all of them. Dad's a sign painter. He worked at Pollock Poster, designing woodblock design signs, display signs. Then he worked at Clay Sign, Kobeckers, and Sattler's department store. Others had a number of employee parties, and this is one that Dad and Mom attended, and they're right almost in the very center in the back row. This is one of the years I was at Camp Scout Haven. There's Bob and myself in front of our tent. I worked 2 years at camp, 1 year as a camp clerk, and the other year as a Crystal newspaper editor. I stayed in scouting almost 20 years, was active with the Boy Scout Press Club. 1931, it was graduation time at St. Agnes Parochial School, and in this same class was Dolores with myself. She was held back 1 year because of a sickness, but both of us graduated the same year. In 1933, life changed for everyone when Mom and Dad bought a farm on Ranch Road in Amherst. Dad being the only driver, because the Sunday church became the Sunday church chauffeur instead of going fishing. And here's some scenes of the farm and also the farm in winter. These couple farm scenes show Mom and Dad dressed and ready for church. Another, Dad painting a truck, which was his sideline and for extra cash. And the other was a Model T converted to a tractor. Here's Dad with Albert, Bob, and Mary Ann. It's Christmas time at the farm, 1951. Dad and Mom in the living room. The annual event at Christmas at the farm, 1960, with all the grandchildren opening gifts. And again, 1960, Christmas at the farm with all the grandchildren posing in the living room. And here we have the grandchildren on Decoration Day at Aunt Eleanor's, 1962. Mom and Dad in the living room at the farm. This is 1963. And 1963 group of grandchildren at the farm at Christmas time. Looks like everybody's there. Check them out. the brothers and sisters with Dad and Mom. 1964 Labor Day outing. Shows Albert, Eleanor, my dad, Mom, Bob, Ruth, and myself. And here we have the aunts and uncle Malinowski gathering at Uncle Ed's Borden Road farm. Left to right is his Aunt Catherine, Uncle Joe, Uncle Ed, John, Harry, and Frank. The fisherman dad with one of his prize fish, a bass, with Michael, putting the wire fisherman sign underneath. Now here's a family gathering of all the children and wives, and always at a table with food. Now, another family gathering showing the brothers and sisters with Al, myself, Ruth, Mom, Dad, Elmer, and Bob. And here they are with the husbands, Al and Audrey and Bernie and Dolores. Eleanor and Bill and Ruth. Of course, Buddy is down the front row, and then Mom, Dad, Bob, and Margaret. And the next set of pictures will show different scenes of activities and things that happen at the farm. There was so much activity at the farm that Dad decided that we should have a pool out there. So everybody pitched in on weekends, and we constructed a concrete block pool, and this was the attraction practically every weekend through the warm months. And finally everybody started to enjoy the pool. Every weekend during the summer, people would come out to the farm and congregate at the pool. And here you see a lot of people. And then the holidays were an excuse for going to the farm. And at the farm we had a lot of kids and races and games and keeping out of the parents' hair. And everyone at one time had to go to a go-kart track which Dad made at the back of the farm. And here repairs were being made on the go-kart with the kids and my father. More go-karting, and there's Janet on the go-kart. Now here's the women setting up eating food table outside the hen coop. Here's a 1961 party. Everybody enjoying themselves at the farm. This is a surprise party for Dad in the entertainment center, the hen coop at the farm. There's another picture of the same party inside with everybody gathered around and the place decorated. Here's another party outside the chicken coop with everybody gathering and all the picnic tables out. One of the times to keep everybody busy was chopping down the tree at the farm, and here's some quickie shots of the activity. Dad decided to take down the turkey shed just next to the hen coop, and everybody there is attached to a rope like tug-of-war and trying to pull the shed down. And here we are, winter scene. It's with Janet and Barbara right at the hen coop. There's another scene of the 1963 winter at the farm. And still another alongside the farmhouse. A lot of things happened at the farm, different kinds of parties. In 1965, they had a band out there, and I believe this was for Lori Malersky's wedding. And you see a lot of the family members there around the fireplace out in the backyard of the farm. Dad and Mom started to go to up in Canada a long time ago, and then after that, every year they would go up to Lac du Cerf and for fishing and camping. And this is just a scene of the lake, another scene of the same lake. It's beautiful, it's a long lake. And here's the river where everybody fished, the Lefevre River. And this is the road to Crooked Lake, which you wouldn't even call a road, because riding on the truck there, you got bounced around, and you can tell from this photo how blurred everything gets because you're shooken up. Everybody went to Duffy's camp, and one of the night activities was a wiener roast. And this is taken in July 1962. And there's another shot of the wiener roast outside his cabin right at the lake shore. And here I am with in front of Mom and Dad's cabin. And there's Bud, Beatrice, Dad, myself, and Mom. And here I am as the captain of the ship at the helm of the boat. I don't know, that must be my catch, doesn't look like much, but that's it. And there I am again at the helm of the boat on the river. Here's another necessary chore in 1962, and that's when you catch fish, you have to scale them and get them ready to eat. And the next year, Aunt Eleanor and her children went with us, and the Westras and ourselves went up. And this time we missed the bridge, and we had to take the ferry across, and my car stalled on the ferry, and we were carting a boat at the same time. And when we got up to near, what's it, Lac du Cerf. In other words, there were a lot of covered bridges out, and they told us we had to go around the other way. And what we did was, I followed the topo map. We ended up on a cow path, and actually got across okay, and it saved us 25 miles, going way up and then down again. So, well, Big Dave and I at least got a couple there. And here's the walleyes that Canada is famous for. Here we're in front of Duffy's Red Bonnet Lodge in 1966. Shows Dad, Bud, and myself. And here's a group that went to Crooked Lake for fishing overnight. On April 24th, 1966, Mom and Dad celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. This was held at St. Leo's Church on Sweet Home Road in Amherst, New York. And here we show a picture of Mom and Dad in church. Here's the priest administering the wedding vows, and Dad and Mom with the witnesses at the altar. And after the ceremony, of course, the groom is kissing the bride, and there's Aunt Martha at the right. And then we have the brothers, Albert, myself, and Bob, and Terry is in the background. Here we have myself, Dolores, Uncle Harry, Dad, and Uncle Ed. And these are the Malinowski uncles and aunts. Frank, Harry, Eddie, Catherine, and Dad. And this is the table centerpiece with a large photo enlargement of the original wedding picture. Here's a picture of the wedding cake, which was very appropriate for the occasion. And here's the wedding couple posing in front of the head table. There's Mom and Dad at the food line. Dinner served at the Getzel Firehouse out in Getzel. There are the head table guests. course, afterwards, it was Mom and Dad on the dance floor like everybody else. And then here's a picture of the wedding group, Aunt Martha Malersky acting as stand-in for the original bridesmaid, Tilly Roll, Mom and Dad, and Uncle Frank. And here they are cutting the wedding cake. Here we have the brothers and sisters enjoying the party too, and there's Albert, Eleanor, Bernie, myself, Ruth, and Bob, and then of course in front is the wedding couple, Mom and Dad. And here in the kitchen, helping out is Janet and Mary Ann. Shortly after the big anniversary party, on July 10th, 1966, we all helped Mom and Dad move from Wrench Road to Sunset Drive in Akron, New York, around the corner from Eleanor and Bill Bradley. The University of Buffalo forced move the farm for a large expansion project. I just want to inject a note here. About 5 years after they moved to Akron, Dad died on July 19th, 1971. He was buried in Akron Cemetery. Here's some different group pictures of the family. Top is the brothers and sisters, and another to the left, and the picture at the right down below is at the 85th birthday party of Mom. Here's an enlargement of the top picture we had on the last frame, showing the brothers and sisters. Here you've got Al and myself and Ruth, Eleanor, my mother, Bob. Bob, I don't want to forget you. Mom celebrated her 85th birthday in 1983 with a big party we gave her at the Coachman's Restaurant on Genesee Street. Here are just 4 snapshots of the people that attended. On the top left is Aunt Martha and Grandma, right? Mm-hmm. And the top right is the Dempster Street Malinowskis. And the bottom left is Margaret Malinowski, Bill and Chicky Bradley. And then to the right is Bob, Bernie, and Uncle Eddie, the pickle farmer. Of course, we took pictures of the great as well as the great-grandchildren, or the grandchildren as well as the great-grandchildren who were there. And you'll see most of them there, the grandchildren on the top and the great-grandchildren on the bottom. The first great-great-grandchild for Mom was Courtney Gann. Here's Mary Ann, the grandma, myself, Grandma, great-grandma, Kathy Gann, and her baby, Courtney, in our yard at 242 Farmingdale Road. As part of Mom's 85th year celebration, Mom went to her place of birth in Ammerbach, Germany, with myself and Nina, and Jim and Cindy Kendall. Pictured with her is a painting done by a relative, Adolf Schachner, which the lady at the hotel got from her basement and brought upstairs and showed us. Mother died September 1991. Here are 2 pictures taken at the wake in Akron Cemetery. No joy, but everybody was just glad to be together. And left to right is Bernie, Bob, Ruth, and Albert. And on the bottom picture, the husband and wives, Al and Audrey, Bernie and Nina, Bill Bradley, Ruth, Margaret, and Bob. This is the oldest of the children, myself, Bernie, and next we have the wedding picture. Joan Henrietta Kramer is a bridesmaid, and my brother Bob is the best man. Here we have former Dolores Meckel and myself, Bernie, being married at St. Agnes Church, May 27th, 1939. And of course, this is the bride, the picture of her parents, Joe and Eva Meckel, holding Dolores as a baby. And the other picture to the right is also Dolores, taken in 1917. Here's a family group picture taken in 1944, showing Bernie, Dolores, Marianne, and little Jimmy. Here's a picture of our first home at 195 Longnecker Street. Actually, Mom and Dad and all of us lived there after Ideal Street. Our three children were also brought up here, Marianne, Jimmy, and Janet Ann. Here's a picture of the living room showing only a portion of the remodeling I did, which we had knocked out one room in a hallway to make one huge living room. And here's a picture of Aunt Martha, Dolores, and Janet in the kitchen area. And in October 1958, we bought a home in Williamsville at 100 Eagle Street. After we moved, I was surprised when the American Legion from East Lovejoy, even though we moved, awarded me their Citizen Award in 1959. Here's a scene of the kitchen, showing the fireplace and grill in the background, and there's Dad, Dolores, myself, and Mom, Grandma, in the kitchen area. This is another scene, 1962, winter, which we always have fun with. Here I am admiring the Christmas cards we placed on the wall. This is a 1960 Christmas scene. And here's snow again in 1962. And outside the home again in 1962. And here's the family group, one of our huge fireplaces under the eagle. There's Jimmy, Marianne, and Jen in the background with Bernie and Dolores in the front. Here we have Jimmy, myself, and Dave, Janet, Marianne, Dolores, Davy, and Kathy on Dolores' lap. This is Christmas 1965 in living room at 100 Eagle Street. Around the table is Marianne, Ruth, Grandma, Lee in the background, Aunt Martha, Aunt Eleanor, and Janet on the right there. And this is the 25th wedding anniversary of Dolores and myself in the backyard at 100 Eagle Street. Here's more of the same group. And here's another party at 100 Eagle Street. And this is, of course, the boys taking down the tree alongside the house at 100 Eagle, which was hit by lightning. This is Christmas 1968. The family gathered at 100 Eagle Street in front of the fireplace. There's Marianne, Dave, and Lynn. Dave is holding Lynn. There's Jimmy behind Kathy and Kirsten in her arms. Then in the back is Janet, my dad, and then myself on the arm of the chair. Mom is in front with Dolores holding young David and Kathy. Here's another scene at 100 Eagle Street with Tommy, young David in front there, Janet, is that Barbara?
Yep.
Barbara and
Jackie.
Jackie. Here's the Great Ways Goose fishing craft owned by the Westers and ourselves. And of course everybody hated that word Ways Goose, but really in a dictionary said it's for printer's holiday, another name for it. This is Janet and Barbara up in Canada. We went, the whole family went to Canada quite a bit. Dad and Mom, you'll see on Dad and Mom's pictures, we included Lac de Surf where everybody went, and this is one of the shots from there. Living alone at 100 Eagle Street while Dolores was hospitalized prompted me to sell a house to Mary Ann and Dave. I moved to an apartment on Evans Street. Later, to simplify living, I combined my business from downtown with the home by buying 39 Delaware Road, as shown here in the picture. And I was active with the Greater Buffalo Advertising Club and became president. And this is a picture of the past presidents all meeting at the Shrine Temple on $2 Million Highway here. With approval of my family at the time, a church edict, and a divorce, I married a widow, Nina Tinter. Jimmy and her daughter Nancy were the bridesmaid and best man. Mary Ann had a dinner at her home for us. At the same time, I acquired a larger, devoted family when I married Nina. Here's Nancy, her daughter, and her husband David and son Danny Rackett. Plus I added Diane, or Bunny as she's called, shown here with her sister Nancy on the right side. Here's one of a number of family gatherings we had at Aunt Ruth's house on Sweet Home Road. Here we standing is Dave, Big Dave, Lynn Westra, David Westra, and Nina, and Kathy Westra, Mike Mansour, and in the front is Mary Ann, myself, of course, Janet, Magda, and then Sharif. When Thelma Beck retired from her and gave up her beauty shop, Nina decided with me to buy 1265 Cleveland Drive, and we did extensive remodeling there to set up a new beauty shop and an office for my BVM advertising. And it entailed a lot of work because it had 2 apartments, 2 stores, and a house connected to it. Nina created a beautiful garden in the back of the stores and alongside the house, and I needed a picture of it for a TV commercial for a home show, and this is the result showing the garden in the background, which was completely done over from just a field of weeds. Dolores had many medical problems and sadly died October 13, 1982. Here's the family at Dolores' funeral, showing Jimmy, Janet, Mary Ann, and myself with Grandma. At the wake of their sister Dolores, Patricia Ann, Donald, and Mary Joan Meckel are shown here. This picture was taken at the Sacred Heart Church in Perkinsville. Dolores is buried in a cemetery alongside her mother. After selling 1265, we decided to move near the Westras in Noonan, Georgia, and rented on Park Street while building a new home in the country club area. We built a beautiful home on top of a hill at the Noonan Country Club, a house with many unique features that helped sell it. We moved into the house in September, but decided to sell and move to Florida, which we did in June 1986. We moved to 8200 Reynolds Drive in Beacon Woods East in Florida in June 1986 and I became active with the association as a director and president, the 4th president in 1 year for 3 months. Brother Bob and Margaret in New Orleans invited us to join them on a cruise to the Western Mediterranean in March '91. That time we celebrated my brother Bob's birthday. Looking for a smaller home, we bought a garden villa at 7514 Rocky Point Drive at Cobblestone in the Beacon Woods development in 1992, which is just next door to Beacon Woods East where we were before. Nina's children visited us in 1993, and our usual spot to take people was in Tarpon Springs. And here we have David, Danny in the background, Nancy, Nina, and Bunny. And here's a picture of Nina and I that was published in the church roster at St. Michael the Archangel right near us.
the time and wondered just what it would really be like to actually be a contestant on The Price is Right. But one Bay Area woman knows too well. Watch.
What is the next name on your list? Bob, it will be Nina Malinowski. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Nina is from Hudson. She got a chance to meet host Bob Barker, of course, when she and her husband went to Los Angeles a few weeks ago. She even made it out contestants rowing up on stage by winning a Chinese rug.
Actual retail price of the area rug, $15.99. Nina! Come up these steps.
Oh, she was hot. Playing the game was a little difficult, however, for Nina from this point on, and eventually, well, it was every contestant's nightmare.
Nina, get a little more leverage.
But Lady Luck wasn't on Nina's side. She had to walk away from the big wheel. All was not lost, of course, because she made it to the big time, and her moment with Bob Barker and in the Sun and on Channel 13.
Good for Nina. I think
Pretty
that's
good.
fun.
Pretty good. I know she had a good time.
I bet she did. That.
This is the story of Brother Bob with highlights in his life. He was born March 3rd, 1919. During World War II, Brother Bob was stationed in New Orleans. There, Bob met and wooed Miss Margaret Dalton, and they were married July 15th, 1944. Here they are cutting the wedding cake. Here's Bob and Margaret's wedding party in New Orleans. On a visit to Buffalo, New York, the Malinowski clan had a shower party at the farm in 1944. And another party for the bride and groom at the farm the same year. Here's a family gathering at Mom and Dad's farm, Bob's folks. In the back row is Sister Eleanor, Dad and Mother, Audrey and Terry with Brother Albert, Ruth with Michael, and hubby, Joe Petrus. And in the front is Bob and Margaret with, and Robbie, Mary Ann, Jimmy, Dolores, Brother Bernie, and Janet. Here's Barney and Gusty, as Bob's father and mother were known, at the farm ready for church. Here's Bob's father with Mr. Dalton, Margaret's father, and Dad over on the right there. Here's Bob and Margaret with Rob at an early age. My, Rob grew fast. Here he is on a camping trip relaxing. This crowd of people gathered in Alexandria, Virginia for a wedding of Rob at the Holiday Inn, where we had a huge dinner, and this is just the group that gathered. I'm sitting over in the corner trying to pull a string on the timer. Here's Margaret and her mother, Mrs. Dalton. Here's Rob's wife, Mary, Mrs. Dalton, and Rob himself. Mary and Rob had baby Robbie. Here's the christening in Atlanta in February 1989. Here's Bob peeking in on Dirk, Martha, Mary's twin sister, and Gwen at the christening. Here's a few scenes from the King and Queen, Margaret and Bob, at the Le Papillon Society Ball in 1989. Here's Grandma Margaret with grandchild Robbie in October '89. Here's the big party in New Orleans celebrating markets, joining the Golden Agers. It's on Halloween 1989, showing Rob, his wife Mary, Robbie, Margaret, and Bob. Here's Margaret, Robbie, and Bob celebrating Christmas 1990 at Rob and Mary's home. Bob and Margaret with Jim and Vera and Brother Bernie and Nina in Florida They're visiting at Tarpon Springs at that time. 1991, Margaret won a cruise, and then Bob joined her and brother Bernie and Nina on a Commodore cruise ship to the Western Caribbean. Bob celebrated a birthday at the same time. Here's the four on shore, and here's the birthday boy with his wife Margaret. Here's Rob and Mary's family, young Robbie, Dirk, and Glenn. When our mother died in Buffalo in 1992, Bob and Margaret attended. Not a happy occasion, but here's Barbara Pasica, Ruth's girl, Bob, Margaret, Nina, Michael Petrus, and wife. Ruth, my sister Ruth was born on August 25th, 1920, and in her lifetime she later became Mrs. Petrus. Here's the wedding party, May 30th, 1940. Ruth Petrus, Joe Petrus and Ruth Malinowski, with Amelia Malinowski as the bridesmaid and Bud's brother as the best man. Side note, Ruth and Bud went to Miller Fillmore Hospital that day in full wedding attire to visit Dolores, who at that time was having Mary Ann, which shook up the hospital staff. Ruth and Bud first lived in a small upper flat at Grandma Snyder's on Lovejoy Street. They later built next to Mom and Dad on Wrench Road, most of it completed by Grandpa Snyder and Ruth, while Joe was serving in World War II in the Seabees. And Bud and Ruth had three children. There's Michael sitting on the couch with Ruth and Bud, and Nancy and Barbara in the front. Many times the family joined Mom and Dad at Lac de Surf in Canada. Here's Bud Joe at the motor with Janet and Barbara, 1960. One fancy fishing trip was up Flood Creek with Bernie, Janet, and Barbara. Here's Barbara in the boat. Here's part of the Ford and Peaches clan enjoying themselves at the farm. There's another family get-together with Dad and Wally Kowal's father and Uncle Bud Petrus. Son Michael served in Germany, and while home on leave, he's visiting with Dad and Mom at the farm. Here he is in full uniform out at his home on Sweet Home Road. Ruth and Joe celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary in 1965 with a party in the Hencoop Entertainment Center. This is outside the Hencoop, still celebrating the 25th wedding anniversary of Aunt Ruth, so look everybody over. We can't identify them all. And there's visitors from Detroit. There's Uncle Harry, Amelia and her husband, and Dad and Mom. This is their 25th wedding anniversary. Some more pictures, a bigger close-up. Here the Petrus clan attended Grandma's 85th birthday bash. The top photo is Nancy with her daughter Amy, and the bottom photo is Barbara and Roy Pasica, and Nancy and Amy Kowal, and Janet Mansour and Michael Petrus. One of the things Aunt Ruth did with Grandma was to take a trip to Hawaii with a group, and this is a picture of them over there. Here's Roy and Barbara Pasica with Nancy Kowal, Ruth and Bud's two daughters, and Barbara's husband. And this is Michael Petrus and his wife Sandy. They live in Albany, New York. This is Nancy with one of Uncle Al's grandchildren, Aunt Ruth, and Jean, Nancy's friend. Ruth visited Brother Bernie and his wife Nina in Florida, and as always, couldn't stay out of the kitchen. She had planned another visit there, but died 2 days before on January 5th, 1992. Albert married Audrey Lewis on June 7, 1947, and these are a few odds and ends of shots through the years. This is Dad having a serious conversation with my brother Albert. Here's Audrey at Christmas at the farm again. This is 1960. And there's Tommy on the far end, Jackie in the front of Audrey, Susie in the middle, and Terry, the tall one, standing up there. Janet is in front of the bookcase. There's another group, but this time it's at 100 Eagle Street, Christmas time, 1960. Another scene at 100 Eagle. It's a Christmas 1960. And here we have Susie, Jackie, and Tommy with Janet in front of the fireplace. This is one of Albert's trips to Lac de Surf in Canada in 1962, showing myself, Bernie, Dad, and Albert with the walleye catch. And here's a picture of Bill Douglas with Albert with an 8.5-pound walleye. For a period in the 60s, Alan Odd had the Boulevard Garden Shop at Meyer Road in Niagara Falls Boulevard. Here's Jimmy with his 57 Chevy convertible in front of their garden shop. And here's another shot of Uncle Al checking them out in front of the garden shop. And Christmas a year later, 1964, and this is at the farm. There's Audrey sitting with Lee, and Jackie's in front. We've got Joanne and Susie, Joanne in the blue dress and Susie in the red. And behind them is Tommy, and Billy Jr., Lynn, and Janet. Here's an evening get-together in Canada in 1968, showing Al and Audrey's brother, and Ruth, and Dad and Mom. This is a family group of Al and Aud shown on the right, with Susie and Louis Wester on the left. And then the bottom picture is Tommy and Shelley, and Jackie and Maureen. Here's another picture of the complete family group, showing Jack and Maureen, Tommy, and Tommy's wife must be taking a picture, Audrey and Al, and Matthew. And in front is Jason, Rebecca, Elise, and Jacqueline. This is the story of my young sister Eleanor, who married Bill Bradley. Here we are at the farm in 1960 at Christmas time. Everybody's there, all the grandchildren. This is at Joanne Bradley's first communion. In the back we have Barbara, Beatrice, Janet, Joanne, and Susie in the back. In the front is Lynn Bradley and young David. Here we have the Bradleys at their home in Akron, in front of the big fireplace in 1963 at Christmas time. And there's Elmar and Bill. In front is Billy, Lynn, Joanne, and Lee. Here's Elmer with her father and mother at their 50th wedding anniversary, 1966. Here's Eleanor and Bill at a family gathering, showing all the husband and wives. There in the back row, the second and third from the right. Wintertime in Akron furnished swell sledding on a hill across from the Bradley's home in Akron. Let's have a couple scenes here now. Bill attended a lot of conventions, different societies, and this is one of their convention trips. Unfortunately, Sister Eleanor died because of medical complications. Sister Eleanor died in June 1982. And later on, Grandma had her 85th birthday in 1984 on Genesee Street at the Carriage House. And here's a few group pictures taken at the time. And down in the lower left corner is Bill Bradley and Chicky. Here's Mary Ann, just graduated from Bishop O'Hearn High School on June 18, 1959. On October 10th, 1959, Mary Ann and Dave Westra got married, and here they're shown in front of the Gettsville Fire Hall with Emil, the best man, and Elmer, the bridesmaid. This was the christening of child number 2, Kathy, in June 1963, and it shows myself, Bernie, and Nancy as the godparents. This is a scene at the airport, and it shows Dolores, Jimmy, young David, Kathy in arms, Mary Ann, and Janet. This is a party in the Western Garage on Hewitt Avenue in Buffalo, one of the normal parties we usually have at all the homes. There's a family get-together, 1966. There's Janet, Dolores, Bowling Lynn. There's Nelson Ryman, Dave Westra, Mary Ann. And at the table is Kathy, young David, Kathy, and James. Here we are on a family excursion. I believe that's the Toronto Exposition. There's Dave, little David, Dolores, Janet, Mary Ann, and Kathy. And here they are again. And of course, to look at the space capsule, there's Dave and little David. And it looks like Kathy, right? This is one of the many trips we took to Perkinsville to visit Grandma Bricks. There's young David and Kathy at the Fume, just down the road from the country store, where most of the time we tried to fish. Here's a 1967 family group with Dave and Mary Ann, with Kathy, David, and Lynn in front of our fireplace, or not fireplace, but wishing well at 100 Eagle Street. Here's Kathy, Lynn, and David on the hammock. And here's another 1967 shot at David, Kathy, and young Lynn with Mary Ann. This is a group picture about 1967. Must be a special occasion. Dave has a corsage or flower on his lapel, but it shows Dave, Mary Ann, Lynn, David, and young Kathy. This is Christmas at 100 Eagle Street, showing the Westra family all dolled up for the Christmas season. Now here's the 3 young Westras, David, Kathy, and Lynn. What a difference the years make. Here's just a little older picture of the preceding one. One of the many little trips you take the kids on usually includes the Arcade in Attica Railroad, which is down in Arcade, New York. Here are the Westras in Georgia in 1971. Shows Lynn, Dave, Kathy, Mary Ann, and young David. Mary Ann married Richard Byers October 24th, 1987 at the White Oaks Country Club. They had the reception. Here's the wedding party at White Oaks Country Club. On the lower picture is Jerry and Lynn Dunlop, Carol and David Westra, Mary Ann and Richard, Norris and Kathy Gann, with Courtney in front, Kathy and Joe Copeland. great-grandchild number 1, shown with myself, called Poppy by everybody, with Kathy and Courtney Gann. And here's great-grandchild number 2, Lynn Ann and Lauren Dunlop. Here's David and Carol Westra with great-grandchild number 4, Shelley Eliza. Now, Jim Malinowski officially changed his name to Kendall with the sanction and blessing of my mother and dad when he became a pilot with TWA. Jim became active in the Boy Scouts at St. Agnes and later became an explorer and an Eagle Scout at St. Agnes unit. He's the 4th from the left. This is 1957. And here are the Scouts on the way to Shelcuff Scout Reservation in August 1958. Jim was very active at Bishop Timon High School, being in all 3 sports, and got the Bishop Kelly Award. Here he's at a Timon football dinner in October 1960. Jim graduated from Canisius College in 1965. Here's Jim the graduate. Jim and his buddies shown here from a little excursion trip they took. This is one of the planes he studied in at Buffalo Air Park in 1967, the start of an aviation career. One of the planes he took the family up, and myself and a few others, just to make up the flying time. Jim married Kathleen Hoffman in 1966, and this is the first result of that was the christening of Kirsten on January 28, 1967. Here's the family group at 100 Eagle Street with Kathy, Kirsten, and James. Jim married Cynthia Weidman in Detroit, November 1989, and they stationed themselves in New York for the time being. This is a picture of the Kendall children and James with Nina and myself taken in Detroit. And from left to right, we have Jamie, Katie, Kirsten, James, and Courtney. And along the right side there is Jason. Jim became a grandfather. Here's Kirsten with little Michael J., born November 18, 1992. Here's Grandpa Jimmy with his little first grandson, Michael. Here's the newlyweds, Katie Kendall with Jeff Blaze, her new husband. This is daughter Janet. We'll first take some of their early years before her marriage. This is one of the early pictures of Janet with Mary Ann and Jim on the left. And on the right is a picture of Janet fishing, I believe in Perkinsville. On the left is a picture of Janet and Mary Ann and Jim. And with them, they have the huge heads I made out of paper mache for a Halloween parade. And we had a lot of fun with that, and they won a prize in the East Lovejoy parade. On the right is Janet with our dog Rex we had for 21 years. This is Janet's confirmation with her sponsor, Aunt Eleanor, and her mother, Dolores. This is Janet puddling around in a creek at Akron Park during a Professional Artist Guild picnic. Janet graduated from Bishop Newman High School in 1965. Janet Malinowski became Mrs. Monsoor on September 7th, 1973. Here's the bride and groom, the wedding party, Gene Brecker, the bridesmaid, and Lynn Westra, the flower girl, the bride Janet, and Mike Mansour, and Philip Mahoney. Here's the happy groom and bride. And here's the bride and groom with her mother and father, Bernie and Doris. And here they are, just married and ready for their honeymoon, going up to the Adirondacks in New York. Now here's the proud parents with number one son, Sharif. Here's Magda at 10 months. Magda, number one girl, number two child. Here's Sharif on the left and Magda on the right at an advanced age. Here's Sharif and Magda in school pictures from Lady of the Valley Grammar School. Here's Mike and Sharif with a, did you say a fabulous catch of fish in San Felipe, Mexico, 1987. This is the official family portrait of October 1987 of Mike, Janet, Sharif, and Magda. These are pictures of Magda's 8th grade graduation, 1990, and in the picture below we see Mike, Sharif, Magda, Janet, and myself. As a prelude to going to Australia, the family visited down in Florida, and here's a picture of Nina with Sharif and Magda, and from there we went to Atlanta, Georgia to visit Marianne. In 1992, Sharif graduated from high school. Here he's shown with Mike and Janet, his father and mother. The family visited the pyramids in Egypt in 1989, and here they are with the pyramids in the background. Here we are on the Nile River in Egypt in 1989. No, it's not Cleopatra, it's Janet and Mike. Now here we suddenly find ourselves in Mexico in 1991 on the beach. Here's Sharif and Magda.